historical report of a great and hidden city, ancient and without residents, which was discovered in the year 1753, in the Americas in the interior by a colonel and his company. Having 10 years traveled through the hinterlands to see if they could find the legendary silver mines of the great discoverer Murabica, which, by fault of a governor, were not made known, for he wished to rob Murabica of this glory, and had him imprisoned in Bahia until his death. And they remained to be found. This notice came to Rio de Janeiro in the beginning of the year 1754, after a wide-reaching and bothersome journey, prompted on by the insatiable lust for gold, and almost lost in many years through this vast hinterland. We discovered a range of mountains so high that they appeared to reach the ethereal realm, and to serve as throne to the wind, to the very stars. The shining, which we were able to admire from afar, principally when the sun made impression upon the crystal which the mountains were composed of, created such a grand and pleasing sight that nobody could take their eyes off of those reflections. It began raining before we could enter upon a survey of this crystalline wonder, and we could see the waters running upon the bare rock, descending from the high cliffs, looking like snow-stricken by the sun's rays because of the pleasing sight of that crystal. With the calming of the waters and tranquility of the weather, we resolved to investigate that wondrous miracle of nature, reaching the foot of the mountains without any encumbrance of bush or rivers to make our passage difficult. However, circling the mountains, we couldn't find a clear path by which to carry out our design of tackling these Brazilian Alps and Pyrenees, this disappointment resulting, for us, in an indescribable sadness. Our tents pitched, and planning on turning back the following day, it happened that a Negro, while out seeking firewood, gave chase to a white deer which he saw, and discovered by this circumstance the road between two ridges, which appeared to be cut artificially rather than by nature. With the commotion of this news, we began climbing, finding much loose rock heaped up where we figured there had been a walkway, undone by the passage of time. We spent a good 3 hours on the climb, though gentle, because of the crystals which we admired along the way, and at the peak of the mountain we halted. Looking out from there we saw, in a flat field, even greater displays for our admiration. We beheld something at a league and a half's distance, a great settlement, its expansive dimensions causing us to believe that it was some city of the Brazilian coast. We soon descended into the valley with caution, noting the quality of what we observed, and the chimneys we could see, this being one of the clear signs of settlements. We waited 2 days for the scouts, greatly desiring to learn what lay ahead, and we only had the sound of roosters by which to judge that there were people there. Until the arrival of our men who brought unexpected news, there were no residents, which confused them. An Indian of our company then decided to enter cautiously, assuming all risk. But, returning astonished, he affirmed that he did not find nor uncover a trace of any person. This matter bewildered us such that we did not believe it, based on the dwellings we had seen. And thus all of the explorers sprang to and went, following in the footsteps of the Indian. They came confirming the aforementioned attestation that there were no people, and so we all decided to enter the city armed, by night, without anyone to come out to meet us and impede our passage. And we found no other road besides the one with the great city, whose entrance was through 3 arches of great height. The one in the middle is bigger, and the 2 on the sides are smaller. Above the great and principal one we saw letters that couldn't be copied down because of the great height. From there runs a street with the breadth of the 3 arches, with lofted houses on either side, with borders of smooth stone, already blackened with inscriptions. Noting that, by the uniformity and symmetry with which they are made, it appears to be a single property of houses, being in reality many, and some with their roofs uncovered and without shingles, because some of the ceilings are of fired tile and others of slabs. With great dread we scanned some of the houses, and in none of them did we find vestiges of effects or furnishings, that we might know, by their use and treatment, the quality of the locals. All of the houses are dark inside, and there is only a scarce light. And as they are vaulted, the echoes of those who spoke resonated, and their own voices frightened them. Having walked and seen the entirety of this long street, we came to a square plaza, in the middle of which was a black stone pillar of extraordinary size. And on top of that was a statue of an ordinary man, with his left hand on his waist and his right arm extended, pointing with his index finger to the North Pole. In each corner of said plaza is a spire, in the style of those used by the Romans, but some which were damaged and split, as if struck by lightning bolts. On the right side of this plaza is a superb building, as if the principal abode of some lord of the land. There is a great hall at the entrance. Though still afraid, we did not scan all of the houses, there being so many, and found within them objects of extraordinary weight, which deprived us of lifting them. The bats were so numerous that they flew into the faces of the people, and created such a ruckus that it evoked awe. Above the principal gateway of the street is a figure in mid-relief, carved in the same stone, and naked from the waist up, crowned with laurel. It shows a person young in age, without a beard, wearing a band across him and an apron about his waist. Beneath the shield of said figure there are some characters which have already been deteriorated by time. On the left side of said plaza is another building, completely in ruin. And the ruins clearly show that it was a temple, because part of its magnificent frontispiece is still preserved, as well as some naves of whole stone. It occupies a great area, and on its ruined walls one sees exquisite works, with some figures and portraits inlaid in the stone, with crosses of various styles, consoles and other sundries, which would take too long to describe. Following this building is a large section of town, all destroyed and sunken in large and awful openings in the earth. And in all this vicinity no herb, tree, or plant produced by nature is seen, but only heaps of rock, some rough and others smoothed, by which we understood that a great subversion had taken place, perhaps by some earthquake, which left this place unfortunate and desolated. In front of said plaza runs a torrential river, rapturously broad and spacious, with some banks that make it very pleasing to the sight. It has a breadth of 11 to 12 fathoms, without considerable windings. The banks are clear of tree growth and logs, which floods tend to bring. We sounded its depth and found it to be, in the deepest parts, 15 to 16 fathoms. On the other side all is very lush fields, with such a variety of flowers that it seems only the most careful nature walked through these parts, bringing about the most delicate fields of flora. We also admired some ponds, all full of rice, which we made use of, and we made use of the innumerable flocks of ducks which feed on the fertility of these fields, having no difficulty in hunting them without lead, with our hands. We walked down river for 3 days and came to a waterfall of such thunderous noise, because of the force of the waters and the resistance in that place, that we figured it wouldn't be louder at the mouths of the legendary Nile. After this drop the river sort of splays out, looking like the great ocean. It is all full of peninsulas which are covered in green grass, with some scattered trees. Here we found a great variety of game and many animals, propagated without hunters that run them down and pursue them. On the east side of this waterfall we found various caverns and horrifying pits, and we tested their depth with many ropes, despite the length of which we never could reach the bottom. We also found some loose rocks on the surface of the earth which were infused with silver, as if removed from the mines and left to the weather. Among these caverns we saw one which was covered with a large slab, with figures carved on the same stone, which suggest a great mystery. Away from the city, a cannon shot's distance, is a building like a countryside manor, of 250 paces breadth on the front side. One enters through a great portico, and ascends a staircase of stone of various colors, landing in a great room, which then goes into 15 smaller houses, each with their doors facing said room. And upon each, with its water spout, water gathers in the courtyard, with colonnades running in a circle, artificially squared and suspended. After these ponderings we entered by the banks of the river to conduct a test of finding gold, and without trouble we found good flecks on the surface of the earth, promising much abundance of both gold and silver. We wondered at the abandonment of this city by those who inhabited it, not having found by our exact diligence through these hinterlands any person who tells us of this pitiful marvel, or who this people was. Its ruins clearly show the form and grandeur it would have had, and how it would have been populous and opulent during the centuries it was inhabited. Now it is inhabited only by swallows, bats, rats, and foxes. These foxes, glutted on the many flocks of chickens and ducks, grow larger than a partridge hound. The rats have such short legs that they jump like fleas, and don't walk or run like those found in cities. From this point one of our companions split off with a few others, and after 9 days at a good pace they beheld, on the shore of a large cove made by a river, a canoe with 2 white people with loose black hair, dressed in European style. And, Firing a shot as a signal, the strangers became frightened and fled into the wild, all becoming irritated at the approach and ready to attack. One of our companions, named João Antonio, found a gold coin in the ruins of a house. It was round and larger than our coins of 6,400. On one side it had the image or depiction of a boy kneeling, and on the other side was a bow, a crown, and an arrow. We do not doubt that many of its kind can be found in the aforementioned settlement or desolate city, because if it was subverted by an earthquake, the suddenness wouldn't allow time for putting away precious things. But it would take a very strong and powerful arm to overturn that rubble, settled by so many years, as is evident. These notices I send to you from this hinterland of Bahia, and from the rivers Paraguacu and Una, and we've settled to not give share in this to any person, because we judge that the villages and camps would empty out. But to you I give word of the mines that we have discovered, remembering the much that I owe you. Since a man has already departed from our company with a different pretext, I beg of you, throw off your poverty and come take advantage of these great things. This Indian will use his adeptness to lead you to these treasures, which you will find waiting beneath the slabs.